So, first Challenger that I'm doing a cam swap on, and I go and I look up videos. And the videos I look up of bumper removal aren't that great. Number one video that shows up is just some kid talking, and it kind of messes it up the whole way through. So here's the car without the bumper, okay? Here's the bumper. First step. These right here, they peel off. Super, super simple. Okay. Then, this bolt right here. I use a 3/8 power ratchet from Milwaukee. Stick it through on top of the headlight. Take this out. Both sides, 10 millimeter. Okay. Turn the wheel. Use a clip remover, which is basically like a fork, and it sticks in. Pop all three of these out. Do the same thing over on the other side. Then there's one in the top of the wheel well here, this plastic tab. You have to stick the thing in the, I don't even know what you call them, the interior part remover. You just stick it in there, pop it. Push the fender liner out of the way. I use that same Milwaukee ratchet with an extension and a 10 millimeter. Fish your hand in, get the 10 millimeter on here, get it on there. The extension I use is kind of round on the end, so it can swivel a little bit. Pull those out. Once those are pulled out, across the bottom here, there is 9 7 millimeter bolts all the way across the bottom. Pull all those out. Once you pull those out, you go to this corner, you grab this right here, and you pull this out, and it's going to pop. It's going to pop out. You do that on both sides. Once you've done that on both sides, you can physically grab the bumper and pull it forward. It's using these slides to align it. You pull it forward on each side, and you can pull the whole bumper out. Once it's out, you set it on the ground, unplug the fog light harness. That's it. Whole bumper walks away. It's one of the easier bumpers I've taken off. It is significantly easier than a Chevy Camaro bumper, which has 2 or 3 bolts in here you got to take out by hand. So any questions, feel free to ask, but it is very simple to take off. So now that the bumper's removed, some of you, I'm guessing, are removing the bumper to replace the headlights. Should be pretty self-explanatory once you get in this far, but 1, 2, 3 8 millimeter bolts that hold it in. 2 clips. As you can see, somebody glued this clip on. I'm guessing they're having issues with they probably broke the clip on it, and then they had issues with it shorting out. So 1 bolt here, 1 bolt here, and 1 bolt here. And then you can pull your headlights off. Okay, the next step, if you were going even farther forward, is to remove the engine core support, car core support, whatever you want to call it. So 10 millimeter for radiator here, 10 millimeter for radiator here, 2 10 millimeters for the hood latch, which is, you can see is laying on the floor right there. Unplug both horns. You have a 10 millimeter on each side that goes right here, and then you're going to have to pull this down out of there. Now the only thing is I think this car was in a wreck, because there should be bolts in these holes. At least all the other Chryslers there are, and there's not in this car. So watch there on each side for holes, or for bolts. 10 millimeter bolt on each fender on the top side, and then you can just wiggle it out. I haven't popped this other side free here, so I'll pop this other side free. I'll be pulling this off, and what I'm doing is I'm actually doing a cam install. Now, did all this stuff need to be removed? I have no idea, but this is going to open up the entire front of the car for me, and I'll be able to do all the work I want and have all the space I want. I don't have to bend over the front bumper. I don't have to worry about damaging any parts of the customer's car. This is the best way to do it. So I will probably take a little bit more video here as we go forward with the cam swap itself, but that's it for now. One last thing before you break your stuff. There's brake lines all the way across the back of here. Take these clips off, or this core support will not come out. And that's everything. Back again on the core support removal. After the brake lines are removed, you have on each side a clip here and one on the other side. more than likely this has something to do with your airbags. So do not damage this and make sure you remove it. If you're worried about the clip, take the bolts out and then you can reinstall them later. Okay, so for the cam swap, the next thing you're going to want to do is put the car all the way up in the air. Get a bucket underneath the radiator. I don't think my flashlight will turn on here while I'm on the phone. But down here, there is it is a valve. Most vehicles have it. You have to grab it with the pliers and you can turn it open. There's a little hose and the coolant will drain down into your bucket. Obviously take the coolant cap off, otherwise it will create a small vacuum and make your life very difficult as it'll take forever to drain. Once that is done, you will pull the upper radiator hose off. You will pull the lower radiator hose off, and you will pull the radiator, fan, all that crap out. As for right now, leave the AC condenser. Some vehicles you can do this, some vehicles you can't. Some vehicles you can remove everything but the AC condenser, remove all the accessories. When it comes time to pull the cam out and put a new cam in, you can pick this up out of the way just enough to the cam by it. Because, if you're doing it at home, you really don't have an AC machine to suck, to take everything out, put a vacuum back on it, refill it, blah, 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 blah. And even then, if you just let it go in the atmosphere, you're still at $50 to $100 to refill it. So, you don't want to have a shop do it. And then if it's the 1, 2, 3, 4 YFZ or whatever crap it is, that's even way more expensive. So a Chrysler dealership will charge you $300 to $400 to put that in your car. So keep that in mind. It's going to take me forever to drain this radiator here because it's the petcock on it is very small. This sucks that these brake lines are in the way. Kind of makes it a pain. But it's not bad because we don't have to pull the motor out. If we had to pull the motor out, these kind of get in the way. And you really can't, without taking them off, you really can't do anything about these. So, okay, so car's back on the ground again, and the radiator's out. So there is 3 bolts that connect the condenser to the radiator. They're all 8 millimeters. After you're done taking them out, one gets screwed back in, the other 2 get screwed in the radiator. Cool thing is, the condenser is free enough where you can just move it out of the way to install the cam. So the AC system does not need to be drained, so that's super nice. Horrible design here. So this doesn't drain. So the hose drains. I just shove a rag in there for now to absorb it all, because when I pull the water pump off the face, whatever water coolant is in there will just drain back down to the floor and the pan, whatever. You can hear that this is still draining. So now that the car's back on the ground, a lot of more coolant's at the front of the motor. So I'll end up having to drain a little bit more of the motor into a pan or something. I took the belt off. Now the belt's off, we can start removing some of the accessories. Because, we need to get all these accessories off so that way we can pull the front of the motor off so we can get to where the cam's at. I pull the throttle body off. It's just something that I do. You don't need to. I pull it off because I want to see what the inside of the intake manifold looks like. I want to see what kind of buildups in there. You can see there's just a oily residue, lack of a catch can. That's pretty much what causes that. But yeah, you don't need to take it off. Luckily, I did take this one off because this gasket wasn't even sealed in all the way. So whoever had it more than likely had a small vacuum leak because this gasket was folded out and pinched. So I pushed it back in. It's up to the customer whether they want to replace it or not before I put the throttle body back on. Yeah, so that's the next step. Next step is going to be to pull the accessories off. So, alternator come off the side, water pump comes off the front. You're gonna have to take the AC condenser off and just leave it there. You're gonna end up needing to use jaws to pull this off. Then basically once everything's off, the face plate, I guess you could call it a face plate or timing cover, whatever you want, that'll come off. So once all that stuff's off, that'll be the next video. You're going to end up using 13 millimeter bolts, and then there may be a 15 in there, and a 10. So it's super simple. So, you know, I don't really need to videotape that stuff coming off. If I run into anything that's kind of a headache, you know, I'll make a little video run through of it. What I do at this point too is I keep oil dry on the floor underneath the car. That way whatever residual coolant comes out just immediately goes into some oil dry, and then when the job is done and I roll the car back, I just clean up the floor real nice. So that's that for the next step.